We are recording to the cloud and webcasting on YouTube. Anytime, Madam Chair.
Okay, good morning. The hearing board of the South Coast Air Quality Management District is in session. Today is September 30th, 2020. The time is just after 9:15 a.m. and we are meeting remotely via Zoom due to the global pandemic and the stay-at-home orders that are still in place in the state of California. We have one matter on the agenda for today, and that is County of San Bernardino Fleet Management, case number 6070-5 for an interim variance. And who is representing the County of San Bernardino this morning?
Hello, my name is Lauren Finwall, L-A-U-R-E-N, Finwall, F-I-N-W-A-L-L, and I'm the Regulatory Environmental Specialist for the County of San Bernardino Fleet Management.
Thank you, Ms. Finwall. And who is representing the Executive Officer this morning?
Good morning, Stacy Pruitt for the Executive Officer.
Good morning, Ms. Pruitt. Okay, before we begin, I want to stress again, well, sort of where we are. First of all, this matter came to the chair for an ex parte. You should all, board members, you should all have a copy of the ex parte minute order. And we needed to have an interim variance in order to get through to a regular variance to make it through the rest of the year. So that's why we're here today. We're going to, as we normally do for interims and emergencies, we're going to bifurcate the hearing. And first, we're going to hear whether there is good cause to proceed in absence of notice to the public. And as usual, we need to hear about either a violation, which from the papers seems that that's already occurring. We also have to hear that there was diligence in filing, that the violation could not have reasonably been avoided, and what the harm would be to wait until a noticed hearing could be heard. So I'm going to first swear in any witnesses. So if there are any people on the call today, at the hearing today, who wish to be heard during this hearing, if you could turn on your video if you haven't done so already, and please raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Just indicate that you. Thank you very much. And with that, Ms. Finwall, if you are, oh, sorry, and we have many documents first that I wish to mark for the record. So obviously we have the petition. We do not have to mark that. Board members, yesterday you should have received 5 documents. I believe it's 5 or 6 documents. Okay, the first 3 I'm going to mark together. That printout wasn't, they're the photos. Okay, so there are 3 photos of the fire area and the power poles and the state of the power poles. We're going to mark all 3 of those together as exhibit number 1 for petitioner. We also received a proclamation of a state of emergency. We're going to mark that as exhibit number 2. As exhibit number 3, we have a 2-page document on the letterhead of San Bernardino County Fire Protection District. And it's the operational area EOC flash report, and that will be exhibit number 3. And then as exhibit number 4, we have a summary that we normally, the very helpful summary we normally receive from Ms. Finwall with the variance request and good cause. And that 1-page document we will mark as exhibit number 4. Okay. And if there are no other preliminaries, Ms. Finwall, I'm going to ask if you have an opening statement for good cause.
Yes, please. Excuse me, Madam Chair. I would just like to say that I have 2 witnesses. It is unlikely that they will be called, but I just wanted them to be sworn in the event that the district has, that the board has questions for them.
Okay.
I have Susan Tsai from engineering and Junji Chang from engineering.
Okay, great. I see you both. If you can raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me know that, Ms. Pruitt. All right, Ms. Finwall, we can begin with your opening on good cause, please.
Good morning. So regarding the good cause for this generator is located at our Forest Falls Fire Station, which is fire station number 99. This fire station was affected by the El Dorado fires that were declared as a state of emergency on September 5th. On Thursday, I believe the power poles were affected from Southern California Edison. Those burned down power poles turned on our emergency generator. Due to the magnitude of the fire and the magnitude that it caused with those power poles, that emergency generator has been powered on since September 10th and has been running exclusively. And with good cause, the County of San Bernardino set up the paperwork for all the variances Sunday, September 13th, which was, I believe, 3 days prior to actually hitting the emergency generator hours of 200 hours. And with that, that is my opening statement.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Pruitt, do you have any opening on good cause?
Yes, I just wanted to posit that the district is unopposed to the variance subject to the conditions as presented in the previous hearing.
Thank you. Ms. Finwall, I know you took the oath today, and so would you like your opening statement to be also considered to be testimony today?
Yes, please.
Okay, and do you have anything to add with regard to the good cause findings, either yourself or one of your other witnesses?
I'm just going to dive deeper into Exhibit 4, just to kind of go down the line. So right now, the current hours for the generator of 2020 is at 522.13 hours. The generator officially hit 200 emergency hours, which gets us into violation starting Wednesday, September 16th. The County of San Bernardino did their due diligence by applying for the variance 3 days prior to hitting the 200 emergency hours. The circumstances of this variance with Southern California Edison losing powers due to the burnt power poles was not within the control of the County of San Bernardino. And it is in an event that Governor Newsom has officially stated as a state of emergency. The benefit to keep the emergency generator far outweighs shutting down the emergency generator due to air contaminants, seeing that this generator is supplying power to the Forest Falls Fire Station and helping those firefighters continue to fight that fire as it's not yet totally contained. And then lastly, the County of San Bernardino is going to do their due diligence by only running this generator when emergency is at the forefront, or for 1 hour a month to maintain the generator to make sure that it's working properly.
Thank you. Ms. Pruitt, do you have any questions for Ms. Finwall?
Just briefly, is there any other way that your potential need could be met without this variance being granted?
No.
Okay. And could this have been avoided by any actions that you could have taken?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions? Ms. Finwall? Yes, Mr. Balagopalan.
Good morning, Ms. Finwall. I had a few questions. Do you have a expected date when you think that pole will be repaired and you'll be back online?
Unfortunately, we do not. But if you look at Exhibit 3, which is the San Bernardino County Fire Protection District, on the first page at the very bottom, it doesn't give us a timeline, but it does state that Southern California Edison is going to try their best. But right now, it kind of just shows that the Forest Falls is still remaining without power. And then I believe on the next page, it says they're working on plans to provide power to the area while repairs to the main line are completed, but they do not have an official date. Southern California Edison, I don't believe, has a date, and they're waiting, I believe, until the whole fire is contained. This came in on Thursday, the 25th, I believe, and it was at 81% containment, but we're not at 100%. And to my knowledge, they wait until they're at 100% containment.
Okay, thank you for that. Just one other, and this is, I know you identified the petition as station number 99. On the
Yes.
permit that was attached to the petition, it says station 128. Do you know which one is incorrect? Or
So when we applied, or when the permit was applied for this generator, I believe it was owned by the city of Forest Falls or a substation of Forest Falls. And so that fire station then went into the county's jurisdiction. And so then that was why it was given the name 99. And so I don't believe we've had time to change over the name. So it is, if you go on the county website and you look up Fire Station 99, it will show up with that address at that location.
and the generators at that location that is given the 40847 Valley of the Falls Drive.
Correct.
Physically. Okay. All right. And then the on the excess emissions, I know it's to be determined. You had appeared before.
Let me just stop you there, Mr. Balagopalan, because that's
okay.
getting to the merits. Right now,
okay.
we're still on
Sorry.
the good cause phase.
Sure. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on good cause, which is diligence in filing, could not have been reasonably avoided, harm if we don't grant the variance before we can have a hearing, a noticed hearing, and just a violation?
I do have one additional question, Madam Chair. What would the impact be to the residents or the community should this interim not be granted?
The firefighters at that fire station, along with all other firefighters throughout the state of California, not be able to properly fight the El Dorado fire. That is currently hooked up, I believe, to the station. So it's kind of a place for them to re-prepare, as well as we have fuel tanks there, which are refueling the fire engines. So that would cause the firefighters to not properly fight said fire. Or in the future for the rest of 2020.
Would there be any issue as to communicating with the firefighters?
I believe so. Communication would be down, so that because it's also running the main building, so the communication at the fire station would also be down.
So access to emergency service would be thwarted. Is that correct? Thank you.
Yes.
Was that it, Ms. Pruitt? Any other questions?
Yes, I'm sorry, nothing further.
Okay. Board members, were there any other questions for Ms. Finwall? Yes, Senator.
I do understand that this equipment is needed for the state of California, the whole state, or just this community in San Bernardino County?
Just the community of the county of San Bernardino, but the other firefighter stations have been sent to the county of San Bernardino to help fight this fire. So because there are other fire engines from other communities, they're also using the gasoline that the county of San Bernardino is providing, as well as using the service at the fire station.
So the fire line here, you providing support from from the county?
The El Dorado fire is in the county of San Bernardino.
There's no fires out here?
Providing support to us.
Okay. I got ash all over my house. That's okay. I don't hear you, Julie.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Finwall on good cause? Okay, Ms. Finwall, do you wish to introduce anyone else on good cause?
If there's anything to add, I'm going to also talk to my director. So he's Mr. Ron Lindsay, if he has anything to add.
Okay. Do you want to introduce Mr. Lindsay? So that stating his name, spelling it, and stating for the record what his title is, and if you could indicate that you also took the oath today. Mr. Lindsay.
Yes, so this is the director of the County of San Bernardino Fleet Management. His name is Ron Lindsay, R-O-N, Lindsay, L-I-N-D-S-E-Y.
And Mr. Lindsay, you took the oath today, correct?
I did, yes.
Okay. Ms. Finwald, did you want to ask any questions to Mr. Lindsay?
No, I didn't know if he had anything he wanted to add as well.
I do not.
Okay. Ms. Pruitt or board members, anyone have any other outstanding questions for either Ms. Finwald or Mr. Lindsay with regard to good cause? Okay. And I'm going to turn, Ms. Pruitt, I know you mentioned that you have two staff members who are available for testimony, but you don't plan to put them on for good cause, is that correct?
That is correct. If the board should the board be unable to make the findings, I can make them available for any questions. But other than that, I have no plans to call the witnesses.
Board members, anyone have any other outstanding questions before we hear closing on good cause and deliberate? Okay, great, thank you so much. Ms. Finwald, do you wish to give any closing statement on good cause, or do you feel you've covered it?
I feel I've covered it. Thank you.
Great. And same, Ms. Pruitt, do you have any closing, or do you feel it's been covered?
You know, I believe that it's been covered. I think that she has spoken to each of the findings sufficiently for a good cause. And again, I have witnesses available should the board have any further concerns. Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, board members, there's some noise outside. I hope, is that interfering with the hearing? Okay. Would anyone wish to begin the deliberations on good cause? Mr. Balagopalan.
Yeah, I think we can find good cause for this case. You know, it was, as we know, the fire, the El Dorado fire that caused the power failure, the power pole to go down, and then the engine started up, and glad to know they have the GPS unit on there, so I had that indication to the county that they need to file for the variance because they knew that potentially it could go over 200 hours, and I think they were diligent doing that, one for the emergency ex parte, and then for the filing for the interim and getting on calendar for the regular variance. I think it was beyond their control. They were diligent in filing, and I think that closing or taking will be without any benefit because this is an essential need.
Again, we're still on good cause, so we don't have to go.
Good cause. So yeah, so I think we can, I have no problem finding good cause because they were diligent in filing in a timely manner when they knew that the 200 hours would be exceeded. When they filed, they were not over the 200, but as indicated by Ms. Finwald, they did hit on the 16th, the 200 hours.
Thank you. And I also agree. I was able to find good cause for the original ex parte. As you said, Mr. Balagopalan, and as Ms. Finwald stated again today, they did come very early. And usually when a generator has not used so many hours, we find it's a little too soon. But given the circumstances, given the fire, given the state we've seen, well, we admitted into evidence. We didn't admit it's evidence. We marked those photos. We've all seen the photos. It was very clear that power was not going to come back on anytime soon. And so I think they were both diligent and not too early. It was clear they were going to go over. And in fact, they have gone over. So they are in violation. They were diligent in filing as soon as they knew or should have known they needed a variance.
Really, there's some echo coming from
Can
you.
everyone mute if they're not speaking? If anyone's not muted, if they can mute. Somebody is, okay. Somebody is, has some feedback. Okay, so diligence in filing, I was saying that they didn't come too early. We knew that this was going to happen. In fact, they have gone over, and they did come as soon as they knew or should have known. Also, it could not reasonably have been avoided, as you stated, Mr. Balagopalan. This El Dorado fire happened. It was certainly no fault of the firefighters, who are working tirelessly to put it out. And it could not have been avoided. And if we were not to have this hearing today and we were to wait until it could be noticed, then the firefighters would be without the generator and then without the necessary power they need for communication and for fighting this fire. So for all those reasons, we certainly can find good cause. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Yes. Ms. Verdugo Peralta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also agree with all of the comments that were stated, and the fact the communication is vitally important. You don't just have the crew that's assigned there normally. You also have U.S. Forest Service crews that are coming in from all over the state and even out of state, as well as CAL FIRE, which is another agency, and then you have the local fire crews that are there. So there's quite a few different agencies that are there, and the fact that they vitally need that communication to be able to fight the fire and manage their personnel. It's I also find good cause.
Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts before a motion? Dr. Bernstein, and then Senator, you also have thoughts.
Just a brief thought. I do feel that we've established through the evidence that good cause. I also appreciate the proactivity to get things lined up appropriately when they saw that they were, due to the emergency and the fires, that they were going to be over the time on their generator, so on their combustible engine. So therefore, I do find in fact good cause.
Thank you. Senator, you had thoughts?
Yeah, I find good cause also. You did all you could do and to minimize the damage to the community and provide access to the community with firefighters, first responders, and so on by using this equipment. Nowhere have I seen, though, how does fire start?
That was the gender reveal fire. A couple they were trying to do a gender reveal and it got out of control. They had an incendiary device and it just took off on them. They did it in a field where there was dry grass and it just took off on them.
So it could have been beyond their control by not doing it.
Exactly.
Or if they
Not
didn't
doing it there.
Fire. It's terrible.
Mhm.
What happened to those employees?
It wasn't employees.
They weren't. Oh, gender. Oh, yeah.
A gender reveal party, which caused this massive fire.
They get a lot of money to pay out.
Yes, and somebody's already died in that fire.
How stupid could they have been?
No comment.
So thank you. Any other thoughts on good cause before we move forward with a motion? Okay, I'm just going to make the motion so we can move into the second part of the hearing because it sounds that we're all in agreement. So in the matter of County of San Bernardino Fleet Management, case number 6070-5, I move that we find good cause to hold a hearing on the merits of this matter in absence of notice to the public for the reasons that we have already stated and the ability to make all of the findings needed for good cause. And that completes my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And Ms. Verdugo Peralta is going to second that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, Senator, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dr. Bernstein, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Balagopalan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Verdugo Peralta?
Aye.
And I vote yes, motion passes 5-0. To shortcut this, because as we can see, almost everything we need to find, other than, I guess, excess emissions and the balancing and weighing, and what we're doing for mitigation was already discussed in the first part of the hearing. So I assume that both parties, neither party would have an objection to incorporating into the hearing all of the testimony we just heard and all of the evidence that we just heard. So I'll start with Ms. Finwell. Any objection?
No objections.
Okay, and Ms. Pruitt, any objection?
No objection from the district. Thank you.
Okay, so all the evidence from the first portion of this hearing is hereby placed into evidence, or yes, placed into evidence in this hearing as well. So now we are moving on to the 6 findings that we need to make for any variance. And in this case, we are considering an interim variance, which can last until we can be heard. This matter can be heard for a publicly noticed hearing for a regular variance, which is currently set for November 4th, I believe, 2020 of this year. Ms. Finwell, do you have any additional opening statements you'd like to make at this time?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Pruitt, do you have any opening statements in the position of the executive officer on the merits?
Just that based upon the testimony that was presented in the last hearing, the people remain unopposed to the granting of the interim variance.
Thank you. Ms. Finwell, I don't know if you would like to begin or if you'd like to introduce anyone else. But again, the findings that we do need to make as they differ from for the good cause, we have to find beyond reasonable control. That's very similar. We've already been able to make the finding could not reasonably avoid. So I think we have enough on that. Obviously a violation, which we have already been able to find, but we do need to hear about the corresponding benefit that is without a corresponding benefit in reducing air contaminants, meaning we just need to hear a little bit about excess emissions to the extent that that you have anything to add on that, as well as mitigation measures that you might be able to take and monitoring. Do you have anything to add on those additional findings?
The excess emissions, unfortunately, I don't have those exact numbers for you. I know it differs from generator to generator on how that is seen, but I do know from previous and seeing similar generators to it, based upon the daily minimum for something like that, we would be contributing something in the low numbers of probably 10% of something of that magnitude. So it would be something to the tune of like probably $6 or $7 versus the $199. I'm only using that kind of just to base off of how much excess emissions we would produce in a 24-hour time period if it were to run, you know, for 24 hours all the way through the end of the year. As regarding how that would outweigh, I think the excess emissions is not as important as fighting the fire and providing that resource of power to that fire station, as previously stated, just due to the fact that it's connected to the base where they're recharging equipment, making sure the equipment is ready, and just housing other firefighters from not only the county of San Bernardino, but from other regions, as well as hooked up to our our fuel station, which is helping to refuel all of those fire engines as well. Regarding mitigation, the only thing we could do is to only run this generator if there is ever an emergency, assuming that the power lines are down and it's due to that fire. We are in that state of emergency, as well as only running it for 1 hour a month for the rest of 2020 seeing that it's running properly, or if there is anything that's not running properly, we're able to fix that so that there are no other excess emissions or excess hazardous waste by not having that well maintained once a month.
And let me just ask both parties, the conditions that were part of the ex parte, are those the proposed conditions? I mean, obviously we would change dates, but,
They are indeed.
okay. All right, and just to ask the question, so Ms. Finwald, so that includes monitoring that would be made available and also reported to the clerk and to the district, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, anything else to add before I see if anyone has any questions?
I got a question.
Yeah, well, let me just see if Ms. Pruitt has questions. I just want to make sure Ms. Finwald was done with her testimony.
I believe so. If everyone feels confident that I've responded to those two questions that were necessary, the corresponding and the mitigation.
Well, we'll have questions. Thank you. And let me start with Ms. Pruitt, and then the senator has questions as well.
Just briefly, you spoke of the excess emissions, and I just wanted to confirm, you do have the formula to determine the excess emissions. Do you have that in your possession?
I don't have that in my possession right now. I'm just going based off of similar generators that we've had. And hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but that we've used for variances before. So I'm just going based off of those numbers.
Did you receive the formula that was, I believe it was forwarded to you yesterday
I did
to
not
determine the
receive-
excess emissions?
I did not receive any formula, no. I
Okay,
apologize.
thank you.
And perhaps if one of your witnesses, Ms. Pruitt, has that formula and could testify regarding what excess emissions would be, that would be helpful. Is that possible?
Okay, I don't have any way to, usually I can, actually I can reach them internally. I'll do that right now while you're continuing on. Let me.
Do you need a break? Why don't we?
Yes, if I could have just.
Oh yeah, why don't you do that right now, and then we'll come back. Do you need about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back with senator's questions.
Just 5 minutes, unless actually, I believe that Susan Tsai, do you have the formula?
I'll call you back.
Um,
No, they don't.
I think we have an emission factor, and which is in pounds per hour. So I know I did not write an actual formula, but it's actually what it is the pounds per hour times the time, the elapsed time. That would be the emission. So that's why I didn't think that it's pounds per hour times the number of hours to equal to number of pounds per day. That would be the excess emission.
And we'll take that evidence in turn, but I just want to make sure we have that. And it looks like Ms. Finwall, are you indicating that you do have that?
Yes, I found something from prior, and with that emissions, I am trying to look at it. So it has the emissions factor for carbon monoxide at 0.27 pounds per hour, nitrogen oxide at 0.61 pounds per hour, PM10 at 0.03 pounds per hour, RHC as 0.03 pounds per hour, and then SOx at 0.001 pounds per hour. And when doing the daily rate at 24 hours a day, that would come out to a little under 20 cents for CO, $27.61 for NOx. I didn't have, for RHC, that came out to $1.59, as well as for PM10. And for SOx, they came out to a little over 5 cents.
And the reason why you're giving us the monetary amount is to show the relative contribution. Is that? to emissions.
Yeah, I know for me, I guess almost in a sense like layman's terms of seeing what the difference is, what the exact cost would be if you're breaking it down by a 24-hour ratio rather than looking at it as this is the minimum fee paid. So I figured that might be helpful to kind of look at it in those terms of what something like this might cost at a 24-hour day rate in the emissions that we're producing based upon the numbers given by South Coast AQMD.
And do you recall what the minimum exit minimum fee is? I believe it's 100 something. Is that
Yes, it is $199.09. So the total cost with that would be $29.46.
okay? Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Ms. Pruitt, did you have any other questions? We'll get back to the district in terms of we'll take a witness on that, your witness on that. But let's first finish with Ms. Finwall for any questions. Ms. Pruitt, did you have any questions on her testimony?
No, thank you. No questions.
Okay, Senator, you had questions for Ms. Finwall before we move on to district witness.
Yes, this is one of the conditions is beyond the control. Therefore, I ask you, is that an area in which you have to get a permit to do what they did, fire, encampment, or what? Was a permit required?
First, let me just stop you there. The beyond reasonable control applies to the petitioner here, which is San Bernardino County Fleet Management, and in particular, the fire department that has to use the generator beyond 200 hours to fight the fire. But it was a different party who started the fire. So we're not looking at beyond reasonable control.
In order to congregate an area for that purpose, you need a permit, or do you, yes or no?
So I think kind of following what Madam Chair said, we were not involved at all in the creation of the fire. I am not aware of what permits would be needed to do what the public did with that gender reveal party. Again, I believe it was just the community members who thought it would be a good idea. I'm assuming they didn't really use reasoning or rationale behind what they were doing, but the public is separate from the county, and the county is just trying to fix what the public created. Am I answering that properly?
Right, and let me just read the
Wait a minute.
finding.
Who's responsible?
Can I just stop and say the finding we need to make? It's that due to conditions beyond the reasonable control of petitioner.
I heard that. That's why I'm asking questions.
Okay.
Thank you. The county, if the county didn't authorize by permit, who in the area does have the responsibility to grant a permit in that area to do any campsite or anything? Or do you know?
I'm gonna believe that that's gonna be if you want to camp somewhere, if you want to park at a regional park, that would be done through our regional parks department. Regarding permits starting fires, I would assume that would be only done at a regional park. So again, that would be back to our regional parks department. I don't believe this fire was started at specifically in a regional park. So I can't speak to what permits were or weren't given. I'm only speak to the fires and what the fires have damaged. And that is within the community of Forest Falls, which is why the Forest Falls Fire Station is what's being brought to the table.
Two questions. Where was it started, and was it the responsibility of the county? Yes or no?
It was started in Yucaipa. I don't believe I can give you an exact area, but I know it was started in the city of Yucaipa, and the county of San Bernardino was not involved. So no, we were not responsible for the fire that was started.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Board members, any other questions for Ms. Finwall and her testimony? Mr. Am I hearing you? Or is
No,
anybody-
I was muted. I'm sorry.
I'm like,
Uh,
oh, no. Do I need a third computer?
Yeah. Ms. Pinwell, were you planning to ask for a waiver of the fee?
Yes, if I remember correctly, though, this has to be passed first. And then after, I was going to bring up Rule 303, Section P, which is
Okay.
the waiver.
It's not P. Is that P?
I thought it's M, I thought.
Shoot, no, wait.
This was
I
in
have it up.
regards to the state of emergency one. So because there was a declared state of emergency from the governor, am I wrong? It's waiver.
I can't, I had it up on my screen and now I lost it, but yeah, it's automatic and I'm going to read it after. I don't even think you need to request it. You gave us the information we need, which is the declaration of the state of emergency, and it is, the rule is stated, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it, is stated in terms of shall. We shall waive those fees and they don't have to be requested
Okay.
so long as you've given us everything we need. All right, I'll find that by the time we're ready for it. I had it up and now I've lost it. Any other questions though, Mr. Balagopal?
Yes, I did notice in the condition that was issued in the ex parte that, there was a reference in condition number 1, it says 1 hour for exercising and maintenance. And then in condition 2B, it says maintenance and testing. So is it okay? I mean, I'm with the board agree, but change it so it's consistent, saying instead of exercising, say testing and maintenance, so it's reflected correctly.
So you just
One
want to
says exercising, the other one says testing.
testing.
So just to be consistent, we changed the exercising to testing.
Is that
Do
okay?
you have any objection to that?
Is there an objection, Ms. Finwell?
No objection.
Okay.
And I should ask Ms. Pruitt, do you have any objection to that?
No objection.
Okay. All right, Mr. Balagopalan, do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Board members, any other questions for Ms. Finwell on her testimony? Okay, Ms. Finwell, you had something else to add?
If the board allows, I was able to pull up Rule 303 online, and if you would like, I could share the screen, but I don't want to overstep or anything.
You don't have to share the screen. I'm gonna just remind, oh, it is P, you are correct. Okay, I have it now. You don't have to share the screen, but it says, and we'll get to it when we're ready to make a motion on it, but well, actually we can make it as part of the motion, but it states waiver of fees, all fees. Everybody who's not speaking, if you could mute your microphone, please. All fees associated with this rule shall be waived for any petition for a variance filed as the direct and proximate result of any event declared to be.
Okay, I'm at a meeting.
Senator, can you mute your microphone, please? Senator, please, we hear your call.
I thought I had, but I didn't do that. I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
Okay. All fees associated with this rule shall be waived for any petition for a variance filed as the direct and proximate result of any event declared to be a, quote, state of emergency, unquote, by local, state, or federal authorities. And we have received as Exhibit 2, the proclamation of a state of emergency, and it's specifically in the 4th whereas clause states the El Dorado fire, and also I think it's somewhere, oh, and also in the 3rd says whereas on September 5th, 2020, the El Dorado fire began burning in San Bernardino County. So it is explicitly included in the proclamation state of emergency. So Ms. Finwell, would you like this to be admitted as evidence?
Yes, please.
Any objection, Ms. Pruitt?
No objection.
Okay. All right, so we can include that in the proper motion, but it is a shall. Just to be clear, it says that we shall waive. So we will take care of that at the appropriate time. But excess emissions are still important. That is why there are provisions in the proposed conditions to keep track of them, just so that we are aware, the district and the board, of what those excess emissions actually are. All right, anything else, Ms. Fitwell, you wish to add? Any questions, board members, both on the original testimony Ms. Finwall gave, as well as any questions on that section 303P and the declaration of state of emergency by the governor? Okay, thank you. Ms. Pruitt, can we ask then that you introduce the witness who did begin to tell us and maybe could repeat the emissions profile of the engine at issue and what the excess emissions would be?
Certainly. That would be Susan Tsai, or Say. What is the correct pronunciation, Susan? I'm sorry.
Tsai.
Tsai, I had it right the first thing. Thank you. I would like to ask you.
Before you ask the question, can we have Ms. Tsai, can you state and spell your name for the record?
Oh.
Tell us your title and indicate that you did take the oath.
My name is Susan Tsai, SUSAN TSAI. I'm a senior air quality engineer at the district, and yes, I did take the oath today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you may go on, Ms. Pruitt.
Thank you. Are there specific emissions factors associated with the permitted engine?
Yes, there is. There are. We have on record emission factors for the NOx, CO, PM10, and the reactive hydrocarbon (RHC).
Okay. And have you well, we were discussing previously the formula for the excess emissions. Did you have anything to add to the explanation that you had begun to give earlier?
No.
Okay, nothing further.
Ms. Finwell, did you have any questions? Okay. Let me just go through them again, because Ms. Finwall gave them to us, and I just want to make sure that you agree and that we have them down correctly. We had CO as 0.27 pounds per hour. Is that correct?
Just a second. No, actually, for this engine, it's certified at 0.19 pounds per hour for CO.
Okay.
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry.
We didn't hear that question, Ms. Finwell.
I said, can you repeat that
Oh.
number?
Oh, was that you, Rosalind? It was 0.19 pounds per hour.
Pounds per hour for CO.
Thank you.
And then what do you have for NOx?
NOx is 0.77 pounds per hour. And PM10 matches at 0.03 pounds per hour. And RHC is 0.02 pounds per hour. And we have this is from our record, there's no SOx, recordable SOx emission factor for this particular engine.
And you agree that it's simply a matter of math. If it's run for 3 hours above the 200 hours in a given day, then excess emissions would be 3 times the each applicable factor.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
And you agree that excess emissions are anything above the 200 hours that are permitted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, other questions for Ms. Ms. Pruitt, did you have any other questions?
No further questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And Ms. Finwall, you had no questions? Okay. That's a no. And board members, any questions? Yes, Mr. Balagopalan.
Yes, Ms. Sai, I think, I don't know if you heard Ms. Finwall stated that there was from a previous order, there was some estimation was given of SOx emission because there's sulfur in the fuel, in the diesel fuel, and there's a limit of 15 ppm by weight. So it was previously estimated the sulfur emission, while it's very small, there is some sulfur emission. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I wanted to add is that diesel emission factor, this particular engine is a certified engine. And through the certification process, we had the emission factor already established for the certified engine. When we did the certified emission permit evaluation in our original certified emission evaluation, there is no SOx emission factor noted in that certification.
Yes, I
So,
realize that there is
right.
nothing noted, but
Okay.
there are SOx emission is what I'm getting at, and it's very minimal, but that
Yes.
can be estimated based on the fuel content of the diesel fuel, and that's something you could provide to Ms. Finwall to estimate the SOx emission.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Okay, that's thank you.
So is it appropriate for us to mention SOx will be an excess emission and it's to be determined?
I think that would be appropriate, and we have done that in the previous, and we did that also because if we had asked the respondent to pay based on actual emission, there will be a few dollars based on the SOx, but since instead of paying the the flat emission fee, so in that sense, it's important to know what contribution SOx. I realize we're waiving the fee, so it's not that relevant here, but nevertheless, to report the emission, it would be appropriate to report all emissions, and SOx is one of those emissions as was previously reported, and I think we should continue to do that.
Well, and excess emissions are important, whether we waive the fee part of it or not.
Right.
They are important. But I wanted to make sure, Ms. Sai, that you agree that to be determined in SOx would be appropriate for excess emissions. Okay. Mr. Balagopalan, did you have any other questions?
No, that was.
Okay, anyone else? Any other board members have any questions for Ms. Sai? Okay, and Ms. Pruitt, you have no one else to introduce, is that correct? That you wish to introduce?
That is correct.
Okay, and Ms. Finwall, I didn't ask, but did you wish to introduce anyone else, or do you wish to rest on the evidence that's been provided?
We can rest on the evidence provided.
Okay. Since this is not a noticed hearing, I don't need to ask if there's any member of the public, since the public was not aware that this would be a hearing today. And Ms. Finwall, I'll give you the opportunity if you wish to give any closing statement you wish to give.
I have no closing statement, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pruitt, also, if you would wish to give any closing statement.
Just briefly, based upon the testimony and the previous hearing information being incorporated by reference, and the governor's state of emergency, the district remains unopposed to the granting of the interim variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask though, okay. In the conditions of the ex parte, number 3 was petitioner shall calculate, record, and report all excess emissions during the variance period by October 15th. I'm assuming that date we have, do we wish to have those calculated and given to the clerk before the next hearing? Probably. So is that possible, Ms. Finwall, for that to be done by, say, the end of October?
Yes.
Okay, so we will change that to the 31st of October, and that way, which is, I think, although that's I think it's a weekend, it's a Saturday, but we can say by the 30th. Because the next hearing is on the 4th. That,
I was gonna present
wanna do-
on first. Yeah, because I know it stated I have to send it to the clerk of the board as well as Alicia Green, who is an inspector for South Coast. So my goal was to send it at the end of every month. So October 1st, I was gonna send in September's information. If the board would allow on November 1st, or I believe it would be November 2nd, I was gonna provide all of October's information and then so forth and so forth.
Okay, so what we have is we have proposed condition number 2. That's what you're talking about.
Right.
So that stated
Oh.
that information will be on the first Tuesday of the following month, beginning October 2020. Is that still, you can comply with that? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, it's number 3 where it says petitioner shall calculate,
Oh.
record, and report all excess
Excess
emissions
emissions.
during the variance. Since this is an interim variance, we'll ask for that by November 4th, so you can report it at the hearing, the regular variance hearing.
Mhm.
Okay,
I will make that happen.
okay. Now I'll just start the discussion, board members. I think just as we were easily able to find or to make the findings for good cause, I also equally can easily make the findings for the 6 findings for the interim variance. This generator is already in violation. There's over 500 hours, 200 is the minimum. So it's already in violation of Rule 203B, which requires compliance with all conditions of the permit. The permit, condition number 4, I believe, says 200-hour limit, which we know is for backup generators. And we're clearly beyond that. So the first finding can easily be made. Just as this was, we were able to make this similar finding for good cause, I believe that it's due to conditions beyond the reasonable control of the petitioner being the county of San Bernardino and this particular firehouse, requiring compliance. So I believe it is beyond the reasonable control. We heard that this fire was not at all the county's creation fault, etc. It's believed, or what we heard today was hearsay, but regardless, it was the public, and it was what we did hear was direct evidence that it was not, that the county was not involved at all. And in fact, it's been declared a state of emergency. So it's quite severe and part of the wildfires that are unfortunately ravaging our state right now. And I believe that waiting for a noticed hearing, so when we're looking at an arbitrary or unreasonable taking of property, we're looking at between now and a noticed hearing, and they can't use this generator. We've heard that the firefighters can't do their jobs, and they can't communicate, and they can't fight the fires. We also know that as part of that finding, as Mr. Balagopalan was mentioning earlier, this is an essential public service. It's a firefighting facility, and certainly requiring immediate compliance would mean not using the generator, and that would impose an unreasonable burden on a firefighting facility. And so because of that, clearly we can make finding number 2. The third finding is that the closing or taking, or that unreasonable burden on the firefighters, would be without a corresponding benefit in reducing air contaminants. For every hour they have to use that generator, they're using essential equipment. They're essentially communicating. And so the very nominal emissions from the generator, which we heard as 0.19 pounds per hour of CO, 0.77 of NOx, 0.03 of PM10, and 0.02 of RHC, and also a very nominal amount of SOx. I certainly can make the finding that that inability to fight the fires and communicate is without a corresponding benefit in reducing air contaminants in terms of the emissions from the generator, which become necessary to run. curtailing operations is not an option. We need to use the generator. That's what's resulting in the need for this variance and the violation in the first place. Reducing excess emissions, it's virtually impossible to do that. However, they have agreed to only using it, which is in accordance with the permit, but only using it for emergency purposes and a very limited amount of testing and maintenance, which is obviously important for making sure it continues to run properly. And finally, monitoring will take place as is proposed in condition number 2 and ultimately in condition number 3 for excess emissions. So I believe all the findings can be made. Anyone else have any thoughts on the 6 findings for variance or generally? Mr. Balagopalan.
I think you summarized very well all the findings, and I'm just add, I think they are monitoring the hours, so the GPS unit is back in operation. I think they lost for a few days, but it's back on, so they can monitor the hours and log in accurately the hours that the engine is being utilized. So that monitoring is ongoing. So and I think you covered all the 6 findings. I agree with those findings.
Thank you. Anyone else? Senator.
San Bernardino County has jurisdiction. They should use it. If they did, this fire would not likely to occur. For example, under the county's jurisdiction, you have fleet management. You also have park and recs. Grant permit or should grant permits for the site to be used, and under what conditions that site's to be used. There's nothing reporting to this board that there's been any transaction, discussion otherwise, between the parks and the county of San Bernardino, their supervisors, as it relates to how the fire got started. Nothing. And whether or not permits were granted, if they weren't, somebody's negligent in not requiring a grant of permit to start the fire in that area. If no permit was granted, and yet it could be, if it was not requested, then that's a big felony. And nobody talks about things like that. I said there's a heavy responsibility for the people who started the fire if they didn't have a permit, even in that area. They did it arbitrarily on their own. If they got a permit, then they should share with the county of San Bernardino, who would share that information with fleet management. Yeah, permit was granted, but they got out of control. I don't see anything like that. I like what you're saying, but it'd probably go with you, but I just want to make that point. So when you come back next time, answer the question whether or not a permit was requested and if it were granted.
Okay. And I want to point out again that the source of the fire is not on trial today. We don't know. And plus, we didn't get any evidence today, nor do I think the parties are equipped to provide evidence of how this fire started. It was surmised by a member of the board that this was the fire and I think Ms. Finwall might have said, yes, I believe that this is that fire from a gender reveal, but we didn't hear how this fire began, nor do we need to. We know that it wasn't an explosion at a facility that was caused by the petitioner. The petitioner is actually the firefighters that are trying to put out the fire. And we saw the pictures of the burnt out poles that deliver electricity. Those are not going to be fixed for quite some time. Certainly that is beyond their reasonable control. And I didn't hear any evidence, again, because the fire itself and the derivation of the fire is not on trial. I didn't hear whether this gender reveal was in a house, it was on parks land. I didn't hear anything like that because I don't think we know, nor unless it was the fault of the county, which no one is claiming it is the fault of the county, this fire. We don't know where that fire started. It's not really in evidence here. And also I believe it's way beyond the responsibility of the county to to know if someone needs a permit and call everyone along around, hey, are you guys planning on doing pyrotechnics this weekend? Because you'll need a permit for that. I think that's way beyond the responsibility of the.
You think that, but I don't. I think you keep making these mistakes statewide. These fires are being caused, damages and home lives are being lost. If the county of San Bernardino should have required the rec and parks to grant a permit at those various sites, then that should have been the case. If they did it on their own, then that's a real problem. You can't go around setting fires and destroying people's property statewide and taking people's lives. Don't say that's not our responsibility to look at it. I have a right to ask that question, and that's what I'm doing.
You don't be a party.
Fire is not on trial. Fire, not. What caused the fire is something I would like to know, and that's why I raised the question. I'm not saying the fire is on trial or not on trial. What caused the fire? It could have been prevented. What action could have been taken by the county of Rec and Park that maybe prevent this fire from occurring? I come from a different level, representing the county, so I know what they do there. You don't.
All right, I'm just saying for this
All
particular.
right, then. You got a question, ma'am? Go.
Well, I see Ms. Jamal has her hand up, but we've closed the hearing. I don't know if you can indicate if you're looking to respond to the question of whether the district is the county is at fault. Board members, would you like to open up? I would vote to open up. We need 3 members to reopen the hearing and hear what Ms. Finwell has to say in response.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right. We have 3 members. Ms. Finwell, please, if you have anything to add.
So the County of San Bernardino definitely puts their community members first. So I would state that if this was within the County of San Bernardino's jurisdiction, again, I don't know what part of Yucaipa it was in. So whether or not this was County of San Bernardino National Forest land, or if this was a part of the city of Yucaipa, I am unaware of that. But I can probably speak to most local governments that our job is to serve the public and put the public's interest at heart and put things in place to protect the public. Now, we can put those things in place, but that doesn't necessarily mean we can make the public take these rules or regulations or steps seriously to actually follow them. We can put them in place and give them places to apply for a permit or to try and keep other community members safe. And we do our best with that, through our fire departments and sheriff's departments and putting rules and regulations in place to keep the community safe. But unfortunately, we can't hold the hands of the public to say, you must do this, you must do that. So we do our best to provide those resources to the public, and whether or not they use them is to the public's, unfortunately, to their discretion. But the County of San Bernardino, along with other local governments that are around in the community, we take our community very seriously. We try to be the best. We are public servants. We try to serve the public in the best that we can. And that's all I would like to state, in that we're doing our best to put rules and regulations in place to keep communities safe, to make sure fires like this don't happen. Unfortunately, there's going to be people who have their own agenda and want to do their own things. We unfortunately can't control those people. And unfortunately, things like this do happen.
I'll respond. The fact of the matter is that you can't dictate to people what they should do, whether they can violate the law or violate the rules. They will suffer the consequences when they do. That's why you have rules. That's why you have laws. You don't have to go around holding their hand. What I'm saying to you, that every effort should be made to make sure that all bases are covered. We're having too many fires. And you stand out somebody, you have permitted conditions to be in that area for any purpose. It should be noted. And they should comply. If they don't comply, that's a real problem. But you must have the rules in the first place.
Okay, is there any other questions for Ms. Finwell on that additional statement? Okay, then I'm going to close the hearing again. And I just want to bring it back again. I understand that this is it's a very horrible situation. We all see that our state is burning down. We all want to make sure that those conditions just don't continue to occur and that there aren't these kinds of mistakes that cause such devastation. But I want to remind us that today what we're considering is that because of the fire, poles were burnt down. There is no source of electricity to this very important firefighting facility and its communications. They are right now actively involved in fighting the El Dorado fire. And all we're being asked is to make all of the 6 findings with regard to the emergency generator they need to use in order to power all the necessary equipment to continue to do their jobs. And I think based on that, understanding, Senator, your points are very well taken, and it is an outrage. Whatever caused this fire and whatever was at fault, it's an outrage. This is one of those fires that could have been stopped. I didn't hear any evidence to find today to see that it was in any way the fault of the County of San Bernardino, and in any event, I certainly can make the findings that the generator should be run, because the alternative is that the generator not be run. We do not grant a variance, and as a result, they can't fight the fire. So for those reasons, I can make all the findings. And you have more to add, Senator.
Yeah, it's a travesty that this happened. The electric and power company, you're going to lose a lot of money. They want to transfer that cost to the consumer. And so it's incumbent upon those in local government, like the county, to make sure that certain rules and regulations and standards are put in place to be employed to minimize, if not only to eliminate, this possibility. To share one unknown comment with you, my son is in charge of the electrical committee in Sacramento, and he tells us about all the fires and how the people are going to be suffering, and that rate's going to be increased, and the power is going to be cut off in the state of California. So that's why I'm so concerned about what we should do in terms of rules and regulations for the opportunity to use these areas. Side issue. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Thank you for that. There are any other comments? Otherwise, I will offer a motion. Yes, Ms. Verdugo-Peralta. You're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also can find the 6 findings. Redlands is the district that I used to work in, and that for SCE, and Yucaipa is within that district. It butts up right to the U.S. Forest Service, the San Bernardino Forest. However, in this case, and I know that we're not looking at the cause, but I just wanted to put it out there that it's the city that this occurred in, and it would have been the city that they would have gone to get a permit. But that's, you know, in this case, I understand that that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at whether we should go ahead and approve this. And my concern was also, if you look at the pictures, they're unbelievable of how bad this fire was, and the fact that all of the power poles were burnt. It's going to be, if you look at that flash report, they have 700 people that are going to be out of power. And not to mention also the need for that bug to be, the backup generator, to be there for the resources of all of the crews that are there from, as I mentioned before, out of state, within our state, other agencies, because it's a multi-agency response. So they absolutely need this. They need that backup generator, because the first line of coming back on power is going to be temporary power poles at best, before they even get the regular power poles back up there. And all of that's going to take a long time to get all of that done, because it's such a wide area. And like I said before, they do have 700 customers that they also have to get power back to. So for all those reasons, I can find the 6 findings, and I can agree with that. but I just wanted to clarify that it's not the county of San Bernardino that would have issued the permit. It would have been the city of Yucaipa. So, and unless it's in U.S. Forest Service territory, that wasn't the beginning of it. It ended up being U.S. Forest Service territory because of how quickly the fire spread, but that was not the start. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to add? Okay. Then in the matter of County of San Bernardino Fleet Management, case number 6070-5, I move that we grant an interim variance beginning today, and it will go through 90 days from the ex parte, which I believe was granted on September 15th, 2020, or until this matter can be heard for a regular variance, which is currently scheduled for November 4th, 2020, whichever occurs first. And it will be for the internal the ICE engine, driving an emergency generator, permit to operate number G56510 at 40847 Valley of the Falls Drive, Forest Falls, 92339. It will be from Rule 203B, and in particular from condition 4 of that permit to operate I just mentioned, for the 200-hour maximum use requirement condition. It has already exceeded. And it will further include the conditions, the 3 conditions that were included in the ex parte. And they are on page 2 of the ex parte with the following changes. Condition number 1, the last line says total for exercising and maintenance time. We're going to change that to total for testing and maintenance time. Condition 2 will remain as is, and condition 3, the date of October 15th will change to November 4th, 2020, which is the date of the regular variance hearing, and we'll hear a report on that. Excess emissions are to be determined as based on the emissions from the engine based on the hours in which it is used, and they are as follow: CO 0.19 pounds per hour, NOx 0.77 pounds per hour, PM10 0.03 pounds per hour, RHC 0.02 pounds per hour, and a nominal amount of NOx, which is to be determined. And part of my motion will also be to waive the excess emission fees under Rule 303P, which requires the waiver of fees when the petition and the request for a variance is approximate result of an event declared to be a state of emergency. And in this matter it was, we have exhibit number 2, which is the proclamation of a state of emergency. And as I read out, the El Dorado fire, which this is caused by, is specifically listed in the proclamation of state of emergency. And that, I think I have everything, completes my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Bernstein seconds the motion. Is there a discussion on the motion?
Yes,
Yes, Senator.
I concur that the county of San Bernardino was not directly responsible for this fire. And they did everything they could do really in order to extinguish it and use this ICE in order to provide the necessary services with firefighters and the residents in the area. That's clearly understood. But I'm still concerned, and I can support the finding, but I raised the issue because I'm so concerned that that city should require permits And if they were granted permits required, they should have been adhered to. If they didn't, we'd like to know how the fire got started to make sure this doesn't happen again. You can't say, I'll point my fingers at you, you point my fingers at me. If somebody was there starting the fire, they were not permitted to be in that area. It has not been publicized in the paper that they violated the permit. And it should be if they did. What to cover up, I don't know. But that's what I think to be the case. And the city is responsible to say, yes, that's a permitted area. And yes, they were granted a permit to do what they did. Yes or no?
And I think we all concur that this is a travesty, and I understand the point being made. And I do understand that it is a source of criminal charges and criminal investigations. So all of that will come to light, just not in this hearing. And I think, as you stated, the only really important issue is that the county of San Bernardino was not implicated in starting the fire. So for our purpose, we can make the findings. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay. And we had a second from Dr. Bernstein. So Mr. Balagopalan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Senator, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Verdugo Peralta, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dr. Bernstein, you vote?
Aye.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. And of course, I know we all wish good luck to firefighters who are tirelessly working to put this fire out, that it get extinguished very soon.
What percentage of the fire is under control? You know?
Do you know, Ms. Finwell?
As of last Thursday, it was 81% contained. I don't know what it currently is at the moment.
Very good.
I do know. I do have an app on my phone, and I get daily update. Ready SP, ready San Bernardino. So it's, as of today, it's 93% contained.
Great. Great job.
Damage is
Yeah.
done.
I know. It's really, it just isn't stopping. Board members, is there any other business before we adjourn? And thank you, Ms. Finwall. You always give us a really good presentation in the papers, and we appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Pruitt, also for an excellent job, and board members for a very good discussion. But is there any other board business before we adjourn? Okay, no other business. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Ditto.